Hey, friends. This is Martine Williams, and I am obsessed with all things mompreneur life and helping you to remix your priorities, your habits, your mindsets, and yes, even your relationships so that you can build a successful business without losing yourself in the process. I'm also obsessed with the color turquoise and lyrics of the 80s and 90s, but that's beside the point. Girlfriend, you don't have to hustle 24/7, 365 and continue to sacrifice your health, your relationships, and your sanity to be a successful mompreneur. As a small town girl living in a lonely world to a six-figure mompreneur, I am here to teach you how. There is a better way, and this podcast is your one-stop shop for all of the how-tos, the encouragement, the life hacks, the success tips, and of course, a little side of tough love. This is the Mompreneur Life Remixed podcast. So let's do this. Hey friends, I'm back. Can you believe it? It's been almost 6 weeks since I have released a podcast episode of the Mompreneur Life Remixed podcast, but I'm back and I am so excited to talk with you today. And this is going to be episode number 9. Did you miss me? I know for sure that I missed you. And I'm so humbled by so many thoughtful gifts and messages that so many of you have sent me. In times of despair, it's those little things that really help keep me going. So thank you so much. I definitely felt the love. And just a quick little update for you on the podcast. We have some future turquoise talks coming up. I'm super excited about some guests that will be coming up in the next couple of weeks. And we are almost at 2,300 downloads. So thank you so much for continuing to share the show, to rate and review the show, and to be following this show. It means so much to me. If I didn't tell you this already, words of affirmation is my love language. So I have loved reading all of your reviews. So in this episode, I want to share with you lessons learned through sickness and injury, because I don't think any of us are going to be exempt to that. We all have different degrees of sickness and injury, but we're all going to face it either personally or within our families and those that are close to us. And as many of you know, I am recovering from COVID. It has been quite the journey. I guess I would be considered a long hauler because I'm still dealing with some symptoms. So I'll talk more about that later. But you will not hear me share on this episode what you should or should not do with regards to the vaccinations or care or how you are going to deal with COVID, because I believe it's your job to do your own research and make the decision that best suits you and your family. On episode, I think it was the last episode where I talk about self-care like a boss, that's part of self-care, is being your own advocate for your own health and making your own decisions, and sometimes making tough decisions that maybe don't go along with even family members. But you know what's best for you. So do your own research and make the decision that best suits you and your family. I also believe that the amazing men and women of the military and their families who have given the ultimate sacrifice and fight for our country do it to protect our freedom. So you will never find me judging anyone for how they exercise that freedom of choice. Okay, now we got that out of the way. So 2021 has been a very interesting for me personally. When the pandemic hit in 2020, not a lot really changed for me. My business was still up and running. It was just virtual. I work from home, so the shutdown didn't change any of that for me, except I had more people in my workspaces with kids at home. Our school went back to in person all of last year after the shutdown was over, so I did feel some of the struggles that I know many of you faced. Life, as some of you knew it, was completely turned upside down. However, in January of this year, we took our kids a surprise trip out to Utah to visit some friends to go snowboarding and skiing. Now, this was only my second time snowboarding in 2 years, but I really did learn to love it. And I'm not by any means a pro at it. I'm still learning a lot. My kids literally picked it up and looked like pros after like day 2 on their first trip. But I was still taking it slow, still just trying to enjoy it, not trying to prove anything to anybody. So on the second day, but I would say, not frustrated, but I just really wanted to be able to keep up with my boys just so I could see them because, they're cute in the beginning and they want to wait with mom and watch mom. But then they're like, okay, yeah, I'm over that. I want to go fast. And I want to do my own thing. So I just really wanted to be able to keep up with them. So on the second day, my board hit some ice. And when I fell, the board went one way and my knee went the other way, which resounded in a loud pop. And let me tell you, I have never in my life experienced that kind of pain. And it was kind of like one of those slow motion things you see like in the movies where I knew I was falling. I knew how the board would impact my knee if I didn't go the same way. And I just didn't know which way it was going to go. And it all happened really fast, but also really slow at the same time. I literally just laid face down on the snow crying and praying. And yeah, a few choice words came out of my mouth too. So I bet anyone that kind of skied by me thought I was a crazy person because I was crying, praying, and cussing at the same time. So I really had three options at that time. Once I realized, okay, my leg is still attached to my body. I had three options. I could walk down. No, that wasn't going to happen. I was literally not even a quarter of the way down. I could have them take me down in the body bag looking gurney. I don't know if you've ever seen those. If you've ever been skiing, it literally looks like they're skiing down a body bag. And I knew my kids would freak out. So I was not going to do that. Or I could snowboard down. So I chose to snowboard down. And I don't know how I did it other than just the adrenaline that was running. And probably was not the smartest thing, but I just would snowboard a little bit. I would cry. I cried the whole way down. And then I would sit down and then I would try to get back up. So I just was really fearful. I didn't know what the injury was at that time. I was for certain that I had torn my ACL because everybody says when you hear that pop, that's usually a good sign of that. But it ended up being a really bad sprain of my MCL and a bruised bone. When I got home from Utah, I went to go see my physician, and he was like, "You're like one of very few who have this injury and didn't actually tear the ACL." He said, "So you don't need surgery. You just need to go home and work on your range of motion," because by the time I went and saw the doctor, I had been so fearful of even moving it that it was pretty stiff and I had lost a lot of my range of motion. So he said, "You're going to be fine. 6 weeks, you'll be good to go." So the double-edged sword about that was I was super excited and thankful I did not have to have surgery, and giving me a deadline of 6 weeks, I was like, "Oh, okay, I got this." But giving me a deadline was a bad thing because everybody heals different, right? And my expectations and my reality did not line up. Has that ever happened to you? Like you're expecting one thing, but reality is another. You expect to be able to do XYZ in your business, or as a mom to later find out you're out of alignment. And I heard a speaker, actually Gloria Mayfield Banks, which I hope to have on the show one day, said at one of our trainings that frustration is just misplaced expectation. I want to say that again. Frustration is just misplaced expectation. So I want you to think about where you are right now, what season. There's a lot going on right now. We all can agree with that. So what are you expecting of yourself right now? And what is reality? What is your reality? Not your neighbors, not your family members, not, your BFF. What is your reality right now? Are you expecting too much of yourself? Or are you not expecting enough of yourself? Which I would say it's more of you expecting too much. But just really take a minute and think about that. Well, it ended up being a 6-month recovery. And I'm still, cautious to do any type of plyometrics. Even though the physical recovery took longer, what really took me by surprise was the emotional side of this injury. I found myself in a really, really low place after about a month. And it was kind of, it's January and it's cold. And we had just a dreary January and February. And so that didn't help. I think I probably could be someone who suffers with a little bit of seasonal depression. So it was just like the perfect storm. I wasn't able to do my normal routine, wasn't able to do my normal workouts. I was in pain every day and I just didn't or couldn't understand it. Like I'm thinking to myself, why is this hurting so bad? Why, in 6 weeks, he said I would be fine. Why? And I didn't really take any pain medicines. I tried to take, anti-inflammatories, but they really messed up my stomach. So I didn't take anything for the pain. And I remember breaking down in tears at one of my physical therapy appointments because even though it wasn't recommended, I felt like I needed it because I had so much fear of moving that knee. And I needed someone who was a professional to help me understand like what I could do, what I couldn't do. And really, honestly, I needed her to push me to get that range of motion back. So I mean, it was probably 3 weeks into the PT and I just still was having all of this pain and I just broke down. I couldn't even hold it back. And she said to me, Martine, you had a traumatic injury to your knee. And even though you think you are Superwoman, you are not. And you do not get to skip the healing process. Pause. I remember looking up at her and I was just like, I am so thankful for people like her that just can shoot things straight with me. Like she doesn't even really know me that well, but I know she could tell just from how I was performing in PT that I'm a go-getter and that I wanted this to be a fast process. And I just really needed her to say that to me. And so if you don't have people in your life that will shoot it straight to you like that, go find them because they are the people that will literally save you in moments like that. I mean, I cried a lot during my recovery and I kept going back to, you don't get to skip the healing process. You don't get to skip the healing process. You're not a Superwoman. And I'm not a crier by nature. So you take a person who is active, who is a self-starter, who is a go-getter and tell her she can't do these activities anymore. It just totally deflated me. I remember sitting on the couch crying and just having a conversation with God. And I just was praying and I heard him so clearly. He said, you have been avoiding pain and difficulty most of your life. I'm a fixer, so I'll allow myself to feel it for a minute and then I'm looking for the solution, which is a good thing. But in times like this, you have to allow yourself to feel. So he said, you're not going to be able to avoid the pain and struggle with this knee. You will have to feel the pain and struggle. I need you to feel this. I need you to feel the pain, emotionally and physically. I am not going to remove this burden quickly for you. Pause again. That's not what I wanted to hear. That's really not what I wanted to hear. I was very frustrated by hearing that. My brain immediately goes to why, right? Why? Why do you need me to do this? Why do you need me to feel this? Why do you need this to be a slow process? And it wasn't long after that because God's just so good and gracious that it was revealed to me how out of touch with my own emotions I truly was. I'm a fixer. I'm an encourager. I'm the strong one. I'm the one that's always encouraging other people. I'm the one who's always looking for the solution and helping other people through their own struggles. And he was simply asking me to let all of that go, just to lay all that down. And at first it was soul crushing because this is who I am. This is what I do. But because of that time, I discovered or was reminded that it's not my job to be the strong one for everyone all the time. It's his. I discovered that sharing and showing emotion doesn't make me or you a drama queen. I had literally labeled feelings as drama. And my good friend, Susie Miller, who I hope to have on the show here soon too, reminded me that feelings just are. They're not good or bad. They just are. And the more we shove those emotions under the rug for the sake of others or for the season of life that we're in, the worse it gets. When we don't slow down and give ourselves time to deal with our emotions and struggle, they always reappear, but in a more destructive way. So I learned to allow myself to feel what was happening to me just because I knew people in worse situations didn't mean that my feelings and struggle were not valid. I mean, how many times do we do that? How many times do you do that? You know, you don't allow yourself to feel sad. You don't allow yourself to feel mad, deflated, discouraged. You fill in the blank there because you think, well, I'm not as sick like her with cancer. I didn't just get a terminal diagnosis, or I'm not dealing with a wayward child like her, or whatever. Just fill in the blank. It doesn't matter. But what you and I are dealing with deserves the same attention to healing on all levels. But that's what I was kind of in the habit of doing, of dismissing my struggle or my discouragement because I'm like, but she's got, a worse story or a worse situation. And so what was soul crushing to me was a huge gift because that time of struggle also allowed me to see some of the things as a mom that I needed to focus on with my children. It's so easy to get busy with life that we miss seeing our own kids struggling with life, right? My slowdown put a lot of things in perspective for me and allowed me to step in and help my kids in times of struggle that I am certain if I was just doing my normal routine, I would have missed. So again, what a gift this injury turned out to be. Okay, so fast forward. I feel like I'm like reliving that season. That was a really hard season. And just sharing this with you is not just for me to share my story, but I hope you do learn and take away some things from my story. But it's also, I hear all the time, not all the time, but do you ever struggle? Do you ever have seasons of doubt? Do you ever have seasons of fear? Do you ever just, cry? Or do you ever, deal with these things? And so y'all know I always want to share my mess so that you can relate and you know that I'm a real person. Just because I'm a coach and I lead, train, and develop women on my team, like I still struggle too. Just because we have these positions and titles, or you kind of fill in the blank there, like we still struggle too. And so I'm sharing this with you so you know that, number one. But number two, I always like to share my struggles when I'm in a place of healing so that you can learn from it. Because when you're trying to heal from something and you're sharing it with others, if you're still not healed, then it's not as helpful. So some people feel led to share it right and raw in the moment. For me, I choose to, for the most part, wait until I'm on the other side so that I can help you with it. Okay, so fast forward to August 6th. Life as I knew it was somewhat back to normal. We were having a great summer. I was getting back to the gym. Now, I didn't work out as much over the summer because I know some of my gym people are going to be listening to this, but I was getting back to my normal routine. I was getting back to being an active person. It just looks a little different over the summer. We were having a great summer, and then boom, COVID got me. Again, my expectations were I'm a healthy woman. I will be sick. But, after having the flu and pneumonia for 10 days about 3 years ago, I was like, I got this. I got this. However, I went downhill quick. But I did not expect day 8 to hit me so hard. I was warned by a friend who had previously recovered from it. But I was feeling really much better, and the symptoms were very mild on day 7. And so I just thought, it's over. Nope. Days 8 through 15 were the absolute worst days of this illness for me. I can't explain to you how intense my headaches became and the dark places your mind goes to when you're that sick. I just wanted the pain to stop. I really just wanted the pain to stop. And every morning when I would wake up, from the day I tested positive to about day 6, my husband would come in and would tell me of another family member who was down sick. It was like bad news, bad news, bad news, bad news. So there were a total of 8 family members who became sick, including my father-in-law, who is battling grade 4 glioblastoma. And I remember just being thankful that it was me and not him who were having these severe symptoms. And I never really had any breathing issues. I was very vigilant about sitting upright, taking deep breaths. I'm a shallow breather by nature, getting outside, getting on a steroid. So there were things that I was proactively doing to try to help me with that. But I, by far, out of the 8, had the worst symptoms and the longest battle of this. And I'm still battling it out. Thankfully, I am on the mend. I'm here back talking to you here on the podcast. I still have some residual symptoms, but overall, I am better. And what people don't talk about are the emotions you go through during and after COVID, or really any illness. It was a very, very humbling experience to be reminded of how not in control I am and how quickly life can change. I honestly have been overwhelmed with emotions to know that my life was spared while others are being taken. And I know that happens every day. Like every day, lives are being taken, and every day it is a gift. And we say that, and those are words that just come out of our mouth. But this last season of illness made me really realize that, because when you get to a place where you don't know if you're going to see your loved ones again, or you don't know if you're going to be able to hug them again, your life changes. It just really changes your perspective. And so I've really just been reflecting and, to understand and to be reminded that God gets the final say. and he's not finished with me. So what do I do with that? What do we do with that? If you really think about that every single day that you wake up, it's a gift that many people are denied. What do you do with that? Severe illnesses have a way of bringing fresh perspective to how we spend our time and with whom. And again, when you're not sure you will see, hug, or talk to your people again, it does something to you. I'm finding myself continuing to ask the questions of, am I doing what I'm called to do? Am I spending time on things that matter? Am I cherishing moments? Or are they just flying by unnoticed? What truly matters to me right now? Not in 3 months from now, not 6 months from now, not the 5-year plan, the 10-year plan. What truly matters to me right now? And in my coaching, these are some of the questions I challenge my clients with. The reason being, none of us are guaranteed another day. Not one of us. So to say one day I will, is just putting off to tomorrow what we could get started on today. So what did I learn or get reminded of through these struggles? And I kind of want to end with this. Number one, we can't always change our circumstances, but we can change how we choose to respond to them. And that will determine our outcome. You've heard me talk about, I think, if not, I'll dive a little deeper into it on another episode, but the E plus R equals O. The E is the event or the circumstance. We can't always change that. I definitely didn't choose COVID. I definitely didn't choose my knee injury, but I can choose how to respond to them. That's the R. And then they will determine the outcome. Number two, there is a lesson in every struggle if we choose to believe it and look for it. I was just having a conversation yesterday with my youngest. He also had COVID, and he's dealing with some residual symptoms as I am. And he had some work that was due for school, and he's had 2 weeks. And so he waited to the last minute. And some of it was because he was sick. So that was in there. But I asked the question, did you have enough time to get this done if you hadn't waited to the last minute? And it was a yes. And so he is my child who is hyper focused on getting the work done and getting it done perfectly, to the point of being a very anxious child when it comes to his schoolwork. And then my other child, he's just totally cool with it, whatever. And so I wish they both would kind of learn a little bit from one another, but God made them the way they are. So anyway, I was just having a conversation with them last night, like, okay, this was a struggle for you. What did you learn from it? And we have to pause and really think about that, because this situation with him could just keep on going and he wouldn't have known what he learned from it. So there is a lesson in every struggle if we choose to believe it and if we're looking for it. Number three, we must be our own advocate for our needs. Don't assume people know or that they will come to your rescue. Ask for what you need. Ask for the help you need. Seek wise counsel. And remember, no one is coming to make you do what you need to do for you. Hashtag tough love. No one's coming to make you do what you need to do for you. Self-care is our own responsibility. Everything else that other people do to help us is a bonus. Number four, slowdowns are a must for our own mental health. When something like an injury or illness gets put on your plate, something else has to come off. Something else has to come off. And it's really hard for those of us who are the self-starters, the go-getters. Like, we just think, oh, well, I can just add this and I'll just deal with this and I can just keep doing my normal thing. And that's when depression, anxiety, and all of those things set in. Something has to come off. So learn to embrace change and the slowdown. There's a reason for the slowdown. I want you to hear that there's a reason. There are things you're going to learn that you and see and observe that you would not have done if you were still going at the same pace. And number five, we may never know the why behind our struggle, but we must trust God is always working for our good and for his glory. Don't fight it. In both illnesses, more so my knee injury, I fought it. I fought back against the slowdown, and I wanted to know the whys. And I had to learn through that process that God is working for me. And this life wasn't happening to me. It was happening for me. So I want to close out with just an encouraging verse of scripture that really helped me. And I just pray this over you. If you are in a place of struggle right now, and the God of all grace who called you to his eternal glory in Christ, after you have suffered a little while, will himself restore you, make you strong, firm, and steadfast. To him be the power forever and ever. Amen. So friend, whatever your current struggle is, be encouraged. He will restore you. He will make you strong, firm, and steadfast. And just know that I'm believing in you always. Well, that's a wrap, friends, for this week's episode of the Mompreneur Life Remixed podcast. Thank you so much for listening and for following the show. It means so much to me. And listen, friend, sharing is caring. So if you loved this episode and thought of some fellow mompreneurs who could benefit, send them the link. Share this episode or take a screenshot and head on over to Instagram and share and tag me at Martine31Williams. We are connected on Instagram, right? It's where you will get all the fun behind the scenes of my life and business as a mompreneur. Until next time, know that I am believing in you always.